Hey, friends, welcome back. It has been a little minute since I have made a video, few days. Been real busy with the vacation and, getting back to work, things like that. But the video that we are going to do today, I am going to show some of our rock attempts for the rock and I'm sorry, this would be the Elite Roc. Now, to say so that everyone knows, the rock that we attempted here, we did not complete in CIB because it was a quickly thrown together one with a few members that haven't done it yet. With that being said, over here, the Elite Roc and the rock here in CIA were completed both on the first attempt. So it has been done. It was done on the very first try with little to no problems. Very, very good, very coordinated. I was very happy with how it was done. Unfortunately, I was not able to record that or participate in that one because of how early in the morning for me it was. I believe it was about 5 a.m. Is when it originally opened. And then the Elite version was done at 6 a.m. And for me, it is just not fathomable to get up that early. On very rare occasions, I may, if there is like war going on or a push, or something like that. But for a behemoth, I did not. So therefore, I was not able to attempt the first one that was done, and like I say, it was done very quickly, very well. But the ones that I'm going to show you were done with players who were not able to attend the first one, and it was kind of it was a little bit planned, but it was kind of quickly thrown together. And this is going to show you not necessarily bad coordination, but just very common stuff that happens in the early game. Just players not paying attention, newer players not listening, things like that. And, most of that stuff is typically corrected throughout the season as people grow into a team, grow together. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the first attempt that we tried today. Okay, guys, so coming into our first attempt here, as you can see, yes, I do have it paused, but I'm having to do a voiceover for it because I did record this while I was at work, and I did it on my phone, so yes, I know it's not the greatest quality. It is kind of zoomed a little funny. I have tried to see if I could get it to stretch properly, and when I do, it just does not look right. So let's go ahead and get into our first attempt here. So here everyone is coming in. Now, to say, these attempts were very well coordinated, and we had enough people online and enough DPS. And as I said, these were the individuals who were not able to make it to the first rock attempt and first elite attempt. Let's pause here right before we start. The very first rock attempt that was done when it first opened was done very successfully, very quickly on the first try, and then the Elite was also done very successfully and very quickly on the first try. Again, these are the individuals that did not get to start on the first try. So here I'm going to show some things that we did wrong, and so the reason I think we were not able to beat the rock attempt on this try was not for a lack of damage. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. It was not for a lack of coordination or for a lack of DPS or for a lack of strategy. It was simply just some simple mistakes that happened Um, Typically at the very beginning of servers. And it has to do a lot with a little bit of team coordination and some of the newer players learning the mechanics. But with that being said, so typically when you start the Roc, you're going to start with a couple of tanks. You'll have DPS on each side, as you can see. And then we'll have an individual that'll count down here, and then the tanks will go in, pull aggro, and the Roc should attack the tanks. What happened here is, as soon as the countdown was done, we had an archer player over here attack the Roc before the tanks did, and it caused the Roc to run up here and do a bunch of damage to the DPS players. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Again, my kids are hollering when I've asked them to kind of be quiet. But with that being said, sorry about that. I'll show you what happened, and I'll talk about it as it happened. So here, you can see the countdown. As soon as it hits one, archer player up here attacks. I don't know what, maybe not an archer player, slug, looks like slug, or a mage player. Someone up here attacked, caused the Roc to run up here, which threw off the whole match. The Roc should have stayed here in the middle so that both DPSs from each side could have hit the Roc without these having to march up and without these taking a bunch of damage. Now, as we go through this match, as you can see, we're doing pretty good DPS to it. Pretty good damage. Not bad. And we're about 40 seconds in. And this is when the Roc does one of its first abilities. So it's going to shoot the red ball. For those of y'all that don't know, the brown spots up here looks brown, yellow to me. It is water. And so when these electric or lightning balls hit, it will electrify that water and cause you to take DPS per second. As you can see, some of the people here that are in the water are taking damage, and they're just standing there. When you see those balls come out, you need to shift to the sides where those balls are not going to be, because after it shoots those, as you can see a second ago, it will do a ground pound and essentially knock you back. And so if you are on the side where those lightning balls happen to go, then it is going to knock you off into the water. And then which you will take damage. Now here, the next ability it does is it's going to throw out 4 healing stones. And then it's going to fly up in the air and it's going to shoot those lightning balls again. Now the objective here is you have to collect all 4 healing stones in all 4 corners excuse me, before the Roc will come back down. Otherwise it will continue to fly and you cannot do damage to it. The longer it takes, the less time you have to complete it. Now there is a time limit you have to complete it in, or it will enrage. What happens when it enrages is it will just insta-kill you. And you can see. Now I'm going to pause it again one more time if I can find my mouse. Here. Once it shoots the lightning bolts out, it will then do another ability and cause 3 random marches in the arena to become lighted up with red around them. You can see kind of around this march. I don't know who quite that it's on here as well. And I think there's another one in here. What happens is when that player gets red around them, what they need to do is immediately run to the center here on the land. Otherwise, what happens is after a short countdown, they will then explode, doing electrical damage, and every player that is in the water when they explode takes massive, massive damage to their troops. And as you can see right here, this is where we messed up, was because those players did not move out of the water like they were supposed to. Now watch right here, you will see we're collecting the rune, and as I go to run out, boom, you see that amount of damage that my march just took? So I go over here, try to get some heals, but as you can see, I mean, it insta-killed, what, I think a little over 11, 12 players. And then so we go up here to get this healing stone, and as you can see, there's another one over here. This one's down here has gotten, the one on the left has gotten. So we come up here to get this one. All those players with the red are still there. Now you can see Frenchie how he has that, and he's running off into the water over there. Boom, he just killed those marches right there. Same with up here, that player did not run in the middle, just killed out a bunch of marches. So now we're down to 22 players, and at this point, this match is pretty much over because we've lost too many players that to be able to successfully complete it within the time limit with the DPS. But you can see how it does that ability while it's flying, and they will get the red around them. And then that red, all that player has to do is come to the middle, and they will take a small amount of damage when it goes off. But if they're in the water, then it can insta-kill a lot of marches. But let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Alright, so starting off our next one here, and as you can see down here at the bottom, this is a very short attempt, and I will show you why. Nothing bad happened. It's simply a common mistake that people do when they don't pay attention to what's going on in the arena. So, as you can see, after that first attempt, everybody is coming back in. We are starting to gather up. We do have the portal active down here right outside the arena, so it won't take long for people to get back. But in the middle of people coming back in, this fellow right here, as he just came in, just decided to march to the other side, ran straight into the rock. And see what happens when you run in that red circle, it automatically starts the match. And so that's what happened with attempt number 2. Nothing wrong with coordination, except for that one player right there just was not paying attention and ran right through the middle of the circle and happened to start that rock match. And so we end up having to recall everybody back out of the arena. A few players did take some damage, and so it did cost us a little bit of time on having to wait on them to get back. But let's go ahead and start match 3. Alright, friends, this was the third attempt that happened, and this was the best attempt that happened with us that day. These were all back-to-back. And they, again, nothing wrong with the coordination, very well set up, as you can see up here. Plenty of tanks, plenty of DPS, 38 players in, and it was just simple mistakes that got us. And again, like I say, I don't want to say main team, but some of our bigger DPS players and were on and completed it very first try with no problems. Also completed the Elite Rock very first try with no problems. But then again, these were just a few players that happened to not be able to do the first attempt. But let's go ahead and start this one. And as you can see, it is a bit longer here. So I'll kind of talk over it as we're doing it, kind of let y'all watch this attempt. Countdown happens, tank runs in, so you see how the tanks run in this time. They keep aggro in the middle. None of the DPS had to move from either side. They were able to immediately start attacking. DPS is pretty good, going down pretty quick. One of my gatherers came back in the middle of the match. Got some levels. Alright, charge back in. Tanks right here lost aggro and pulled over here to the DPS, which caused a little bit of chaos there. But they were able to turn the rock back around and get aggro back pretty quickly. Now you can see here it's going to the middle and starting its ability. So here, when that happens, all these players need to move down here. All the players up here need to move over here. And as you can see, when it says scatter, when this countdown ends, it's going to boom the ground, pop everybody in. A few of those players that had some slow reaction times got knocked into the lightning. And they continue to just stand there, and eventually some of them end up dying. But here, mana stones come out. Now, as you can see, one of the things I want to point out, right here, all these players standing here should have grabbed this stone very quickly. We had the players here to get it, and what happened is people panicked. They should have stayed here, grabbed that stone real quick, and then ran back to the middle. We would have been able to complete that stone up there with no problem. And what some people fail to realize, when this stone goes off and your march is taking healing, it will almost out-heal the lightning. You will still take some damage, but not a lot. But what we failed to do here is pick up the stones quick enough. And you can see, marks going up. Now, here again, they get the ability 2 go to the middle, 3 go to the middle. See how those come into the middle this time? Very well done. They barely took any damage. The stone is grabbed. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough people up top to grab it quickly enough, but we did get people up there. We got the stone. See, now, once you get the stone, the rock comes down. It lands. Once it lands, and it is stunned for 20 seconds. When it is stunned, it takes extra damage. And as you can see, DPS is really, really good. And then once the counter is done, it pops back up. And it pretty much goes through the same cycle again. My reaction time there was a bit slow. As you can see here, I'm at work in the middle of doing this, and I'm doing this on my phone. So it is, a bit difficult for me to do it properly. But, I mean, we're doing it in decent time. Plenty of DPS. But here is where we start to mess up. Right here. That comes out as soon as that rock turned and faced that way. Every one of those players should have been moving. And they didn't. And right here what happens is that hits. And then bam, knocks almost all the DPS, or at least about half of it, back in there and starts taking a ton of damage. Our tank here, one of our main tanks, also gets knocked back in there. The tank goes down right there. And then here we've lost about 10 players. Now, we still have enough DPS to complete this, but here is where we made our biggest mistake. We had plenty of people here to gather that stone as soon as it dropped, and instead everybody ran to the middle. Nobody picked up the stone. We could have completed that stone. And then again, we run down here. Person gets the red circle. I ran out of the way, and but I thought they were going to end up getting me. But up there, a few did die from it because one player did not run out of the way. So we're down to 27. Still have enough people, I think, to complete this. But here, everybody should have all been going to the same one. Everybody splits off. The coordination here, I think people started panicking a little bit. And everybody kind of just split off in different ways. And we just did not grab the stones quickly enough. And then this individual gets the red. I run out of the way, but people aren't paying attention. And then boom. Kills off another 5 or 6 players. And then here is where we just kind of fell apart a little bit. I didn't mean to bring up the thing there, but again, I mean, we just kind of, that second wave of the healing stones is kind of just where coordination seemed to fall apart. And then up here we come to get this stone. I think this is the one right here. This fella ends up wiping out the rest of the team. Yeah. So he just took out another almost 10, 5, 6 players right there. And at this point, it's GG. Not much more we can do now. We've lost too much DPS. And then it does go to Enrage here, again, because we've taken too long. So you have 7 minutes to complete it on Elite difficulty. And, again, at this point, we've already lost so much DPS. And I had to go in and get off because I was at work, and some others did as well. And so those were the 3 attempts that we tried earlier. It's the very, very simple mistakes that was made that, could have been avoided. And it wasn't for a lack of coordination through officers. It wasn't for a lack of coordination, through anything like that. It was simply just, very simple mistakes excuse me, that could have been avoided mainly through experience. It's just some of the newer players that weren't aware of how the mechanics of the rock worked. Simply just didn't pay attention, and it is what it is. Like I say, our main team. I don't know if I really want to call it main team, but we captured the rock through them on the very first try, and then also did the elite rock again on the very first try with no issues. But with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. These 3 short little videos of the rock attempts, and I'll see y'all in the next one.